This is Mark Anthony with Mercury Time Price Analytics with your weekly update for the week of December 23rd to 27th, as well as the Globex update for Sunday, December 29th. Globex session started about 15 minutes ago at the time of this recording and trading up just a little bit to 32.40. I want you to keep in mind this extension pivot here, 32.41.51. This is one of our Mercury band upper extensions. If you haven't seen any of our videos before, we've got two key sets of pivots that we run, as well as intraday pivots. The Mercury bands and Algo pivots, those are run based on RTH closing data. So for example, the numbers that we ran this weekend are based on the RTH close data for Friday. Now these are mid-cycle and long-cycle algorithmic pivots. So when we release these not only apply to the Globex session when they're released, but they also apply to the entire day session the next day. So these will be for tonight and for the entire day session on Monday 12:30 up until the 4:15 p.m. Eastern Time RTH close. And just move over here to a screenshot. This is the data that our subscribers get. We've got 3 upper level extensions, normally 2. I put a third one on there for tonight. 2 lower extensions, and then the heart of the Mercury bands is right here. You've got an upper level, a lower level, and 2 mid bands. And these are the 4 pivots in the short cycle and the long cycle. Now, if you're a visual person like me, looking at that means absolutely nothing. So therefore, we overlay it on the price chart. So let's pull the price chart out just a little bit. And you can see right here, before I zoom the chart out, the Mercury band short cycle upper is right here where we closed on Friday, 32.36.46. These upper extensions, practically every day you'll see Globex open, and at some point on the Globex session, you'll go up to these upper extensions, and most evenings and all throughout the European session, that ends up being a brick wall, and many times right to the tick. We had something peculiar happen on Thursday evening's Globex session and Friday early morning Globex. I'm going to show you in a moment. And this is something that hasn't happened until the first 2 trading days in December, where we had that 88-point swoon from the previous all-time high of 31.58 down to 30.70. So let's pull the chart back just a little bit and show you a couple more of the Mercury bands. So here's our Mercury band short cycle upper right here where RTH closed Friday. Here we've got our mid cycle. We've got this extension up here. And I'm going to pull this back a little bit, and the header at the top is going to get a little bit jumbled, so please forgive me for that. But when you pull the chart out and you look at these Mercury bands in context, you can see how beautiful these lines are drawn. And these are all mathematical algorithms. These are not hand-drawn with a pencil and a ruler, but you couldn't put them on a chart with any more accuracy if you did them that way. So you can see these levels here, the Mercury band short cycle mid completely bisects this price congestion zone. You've got the long cycle mid right here at 32.02. Remember week before Christmas where ES could not get above that 32.02 level? Well, here we are, week and a half later. We run our algorithmic pivots, and guess where it puts this particular band? Right there at the same 32.02.67 that ES couldn't get through for 2.5 days. Then we've got our long cycle upper here at 32.15. Well, why is that there? From a mathematical perspective, I can't explain that, but from a pragmatic perspective, the reason the math puts that pivot right there is that's where you had this extension through this zone right here. You had the first leg up after 32.02 broke to the upside, a little bit of a horizontal, not a correction, but just a little bit of time to regroup before that next leg, and this is where that broke. And we move a little bit higher, 32.23. We've got our short cycle mid. Now pulling this back for a minute, we've got our short cycle lower, we've got our 2 mid bands in the upper. And this is the reason we overlay this on the chart, because again, just putting out a spreadsheet is meaningless. Here you've got our live pivots. Live pivots are pivots that we put out 4 times a day, and these are actually during the trading day. So our systems adapt to, we call this intraday optimization. Our systems adapt to what's going on during the day. So if you're a day trader, you need to know what the algorithms are doing during the day, not just the way they're set up in the Globex session or in the pre-open. We put out another set of pivots about half an hour before the 9:30 a.m. Eastern open, but it is of huge importance to have these intraday live pivots. Those are your roadmap, your guide post during the day. Now there's also some pivots up here too. We've got another extension pivot at 3261, another one at 3267. You can't see those on the chart. I would be surprised if ES goes above this 3241. Now I mentioned that there's something interesting that happened Thursday and Friday. If we go back to first trading day of December, 12/2. Now, there's a lot on this chart. This is literally about 5 different algorithmic systems on one chart. This isn't the way we put this out for subscribers, but I wanted to show you something interesting. I mentioned before that on most evenings, ES, when it trades up a little bit above the previous close, it usually stops on a dime at these upper extensions. Well, this was the only time back on the first day in December where we actually saw ES go above this upper extension, made just a little bit of a loop, or I call it a hook, and came back below it, and then into the first hour to 2 hours of the European session. Then you had this bump up. So you had the upper extension at 3152.77. We made at the time what was the all-time high at 3158. And then when the market opened, boom. And you came all the way down. I'll give you a little bit wider version of this. From 3158, making a low at 3109.51, I believe. And so there you had a nearly 40 handle move. Now, here's the whole point. What the algorithms do is they create what I call hooks. The hooks are designed to run the stops on the top end, run the stops on the bottom end. So given the fact that in the last 3 months, we had not seen ES and Globex trade a dime above these upper extensions, what do the algos do? They create a little hook. They run all the stops that are at that level. I mean, how many people had their stops just a tad above 3150? Maybe folks give it a couple handles, 3151, 52, 53. Well, those are all gone because the algo took them. And what the algos do is they run these hooks and grab the stops just so they can reverse it the other way. I mean, think of it as the algos, the institutional algos, as something that's probing for the stops. And when it sufficiently runs enough stops, then you get the reversal. Now, look what happened the next day. This was December 2nd. Forgive me, we need to go back to... Here it is. There we go. I'm sorry. So here you've got December 2nd and 3rd. So you had the high at 3158, and you had that move down to 3109.50. And then this is what you got the next day, all the way down to 3069. So literally you had an 88 handle move in 2 days that was all created by that little hook. And it's right there. Now, what did we see on Friday? So Thursday evening, we put out our Mercury bands. You've got this upper extension here at 3251.56. Now, again, usually ES will stop on a dime, literally to the tick at these upper extensions. So what did you get Thursday evening? You've got a move that came all the way up, stopped within a tick of this upper extension, came down, and this is the first 2 hours of the European session. And then when we get into the pre-market, this is 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., you get this move back up. It was around 5:30 or so that you had this move that broke the previous high in the early European session, came all the way up to 32.54. That's the hook, and that is exactly what the algos did back here. Exactly. Now, the reaction that we got on Friday was muted. We hit a high of 32.54. We came down to 32.36. Now, I'm not going to try and explain why this was muted, but you've got a lot of liquidity that's being pumped into the market right now. Any type of correction is going to be muted because of the level of liquidity that's being put into the system into year end. But I'm telling you, this is the exact setup that happened before. Now, is this going to result in an 88 handle move? No, most likely not, because you've got all that liquidity. But what I want to show you is mathematically, algorithmically, what we saw on Friday is the same thing you saw here on the 2nd and the same thing you saw here on the 3rd. Now, when you start looking at mathematics, at algorithms versus the reality of what's happening in the market, remember, everything in the market is based on time. And when you mute the typical price discovery reaction of the market, you're borrowing time against a future event. It's no different than when you've got a run-up like we've had in the last 30 days in late November and December. You're borrowing profits, you're borrowing handles from next year. You're pulling it forward. And that's exactly what we've had happen. And that's exactly why we had the same setup on Thursday Globex and Friday morning that we had on December 2nd and December 3rd. But instead of an 88 handle move, we get a muted move like we saw on Friday. Now, what happens on Monday? Well, we'll have to see. But keep in mind that eventually what's happening underneath the surface with these algorithms, ultimately at some point it has to express itself in price. Does that happen in early January, late January, February, March? We'll see. But the point is, when you're using algorithms, you don't have to guess at these things. You don't take a position now based on what you think is going to happen at the beginning of January, what you think is going to happen at the end of January, what you think is going to happen in February. That is the fastest way to lose money. Trade what's on your screen based on the algorithms. And these are the systems that we give to our subscribers. If you'd like to visit our website, it is mercurysignals.com. That's signals with an S, mercurysignals.com. And also, if you'd like to take part in our next free Algorithmic Futures Trading webinar, it's going to be on New Year's Day. You can attend the webinar, have the college football bowl games on in the background, which I will. The seminar or webinar, pardon me, is January 1st at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. You can go to our website, mercurysignals.com, click the webinar registration link at the top of the page, reserve your spot. If you don't get a confirmation, send me an email. It's markanthony@mercurysignals.com, markanthony@mercurysignals.com. And while we're on the video, you can see exactly what we're talking about. Here's the Mercury upper extension, number 1 at 32.41.52, and there's your move into 32.41.25 within a tick. Now we'll see what happens, but I would expect this to put in some kind of high in Globex. This is what happens all the time, and you can see it starting to happen right before our eyes on the video. And so that's all for tonight. We'll see you tomorrow. God bless you. God bless your family. Thank you so much for taking a few minutes to watch this video, and we'll see you again soon.